1984 is out in theaters now, where theaters are open, and it is streaming on HBO Max. This is my spoiler review for Wonder Woman 1984. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to talk about everything in 1984 because it is just jam-packed full of action, characters, plots, and I mean plot. And I'm doing this after my first viewing. This is a spoiler review. Usually, I try and see these twice before I do a spoiler review. But I don't know when I'm going to be able to see this movie again. I mentioned this in my spoiler-free review. So I'm doing this as I'm filming my spoiler-free review, and I'm trying to think of everything off the top of my head after one viewing. So obviously there's going to be a lot of stuff that I'm going to miss. And I'll try and do my best to cover as much as I can and explain some events and go into more of what I didn't like about the movie. And I think it's pretty clear from my previous spoiler reviews that I jump around a lot. I don't go play by play or, beginning, middle, end. I say really what I think my biggest complaint with the movie is first, and then I kind of springboard off that and talk about my other negatives or scenes that I really like. So let's get into it. My biggest problem with the movie was the MacGuffin-like object that jump-started the plot. That was this rock. It's just a rock. The way I describe it, it's a magic rock. It has an official name in the movie. I forget. Like I said, this is off one viewing. It's not ingrained into my head yet. But it's just a rock. It's basically like the magic lamp from Aladdin. So it's like a wish rock or like a dream rock. That's how Diana is able to bring Steve Trevor back. But he's inhibiting another body, which I didn't think was really utilized to its full potential. The whole thing with Steve Trevor, that's how they explain how Steve Trevor comes back, which I'm fine with. But in the whole dynamic of him trying to fit in, I just wanted to see more of, like, maybe, I don't know, for me, it would have been weird now, I don't know. I hinted at this in my spoiler-free review, but, like, now I'm just kind of sitting here thinking about it. It's like, maybe, like, Steve Trevor and then the body he's inhabiting kind of wrestling with themselves, but that would also be kind of weird. But in a way, this is a weird movie. Where a rock grants people wishes. I guess that's the avenue I wanted them to explore with Steve Trevor. Now I'm thinking, maybe I'm happy that they didn't go down that route. So maybe I actually do like that more now that I'm talking about it 5 minutes after I just did my spoiler-free review. But I wanted... I don't know. I think that it would have been cheesy, but I mean, what movie in the 80s wasn't cheese, you know? I feel like movies in the 80s could have explored that. Like, it's not necessarily a body swap situation, but I guess it's kind of a possession. And the movie explains it as, like, Diana sees Steve Trevor, but when he looks into the mirror, he's actually this other person that he's inhabiting. Which is why I think I wanted that other person to be in it a little bit more. I think it would have been an interesting dynamic to just explore that. Or has this happened before with this rock, where somebody wished for somebody to come back and they inhibited another body? Like, maybe we could have had another, like, backstory or something, but I guess that wouldn't make sense either, because who would Diana know that had this rock before that wished the exact same thing she did? So maybe it wouldn't work like that. The way Barbara Minerva gets her powers is she ultimately uses this wish rock to say that she wants to be like Diana. So she gets, like, superhuman strength, she gets, like, superpowers. That's eventually how she becomes Cheetah, and then she's not really in the movie all that much until she teams up with Maxwell Lord towards the end. And what is it with these villains and, like, their, like, I want to be number one motivation? Because that's something I kind of don't like with Cheetah. I feel like a lot of movies now, the villains are just like, I'm sick of being number 2, let me be number 1. Where did this start? I blame Aladdin. It's Jafar's fault. He was second best and he wanted to be first best. Okay, now we got the newest trend Hollywood starting. Villain motivation. They want to be number 1. As I've said in the past, and as you know from my James Bond reviews, Hollywood is trendy. So I guess that's the new trend in Hollywood. The villain motivation is the villain has to be number 1, or they just get jealous of people. That's another trend too. Both of them just are kind of merged into the character of Barbara Minerva. So Maxwell Lord, in order to get all of the power that he wants, his wish is to become the Rock. So now people have to wish when they touch him, but then he takes something from them. So because Wonder Woman wished for Steve Trevor to come back, she's slowly losing her powers because he's taking the powers for her. But if you renounce that wish, everything starts to go back to normal. So it gets to a point where Barbara Minerva's like, basically like Topher Grace in Spider-Man 3.
I like being bad. It makes me happy.
She's like, bitch, I ain't renouncing my wish. I'm staying bad because I'm jealous and I'm number 2 and I want to be number 1. I just kind of felt the way that Maxwell Lord was able to break out of this spell and this power-hungry craze that he was going on. That felt a little bit hokey in terms of the plot as well. Because he's just like, I renounce my wish, and it's cute and it's emotional because he's reunited with his son. But from what the movie told me, he's not that type of person. He's this power-hungry oil tycoon and media mogul who just wants everything given to him. The interesting part is that because he is like I'm gonna call it the wishing rock, because he is the wishing rock now. It's like he can go into places, manipulate people, and influence people to make a wish. And I actually thought that was kind of cool. Not the best plot, but I mean, it worked for what they were going for. Cheetah, on the other hand, I've already kind of talked about Cheetah. That was a big reason why Cheetah didn't really work for me. But at the end, we meet up at this satellite dish where Maxwell Lord's big plan is to broadcast himself to the entire world so that people will have to look him in the eye and make a wish so he can take something from them, and now he'll become super powerful. So Wonder Woman and Cheetah fight at that satellite dish. That's where it really felt tacked on. It started to feel tacked on once Barbara Minerva teamed up with Maxwell Lord. She was like, no, don't kill him. It was there, and then I just feel like Cheetah wasn't used a lot. It was just really there for that fight scene, which is why I said I feel like they wanted to stretch her out into a third movie, or it felt like it was just supposed to be Barbara Minerva, and then you got the hint that, oh, she became Cheetah at the end of this movie, and that was going to happen to be Wonder Woman against Cheetah in the third one. In terms of stuff I really liked, I like the idea that Wonder Woman is dealing with a crisis where she made this wish to bring Steve Trevor back, but she's slowly losing her superpowers. It made her more vulnerable in the action sequences. This is why I really like the action sequences in this movie, because it really made Wonder Woman feel more human. It gave her a sense of humanity. It wasn't just a woman who had superpowers that felt like she was invincible for the whole movie. It made you care about her a lot more than you already did, and it was just like, oh no. Like, I really like how that was a story element, and another characteristic. I like how that was really a setback that Diana had to go through, that in a way, it's 2 movies in a row where she has to adapt and adjust to something she's not used to. In the first movie, she had to adapt to normal human life and society. In this, she has to adapt to the fact that she's losing her superpowers because she made this wish to bring Steve Trevor back. The scene where she renounces that her wish to bring Steve Trevor back is very emotional. I think it's very well done. Where Steve Trevor finally tells her, it's like, no, you gotta do this. Like, you gotta renounce me. I will always love you. In a way, it's a love story. It's her seeing her true love back and then having to see him go again. But I like at the end when she's giving her big speech to Maxwell Lord where it's like, you took it from me, but I don't want it back. I have to accept that it's gone. And I love that idea that you have to move on. You have to learn how to accept. I think a lot of us have trouble accepting some stuff that happens in our lives, and we can't really move on from it. I think that this movie spreads that message in a fairly adequate way, especially when it comes to Steve Trevor. He's like, nope, just let me be. I'll always be in your heart. Just because I'm gone doesn't mean I'm gone.
No one's ever really gone.
This is what you have to do. Renounce me as a wish so that you can get your superpowers back and you can defeat Maxwell Lord. Now, they explained this rock. Apparently, it was like from what I remember, I may be mixing up some scenes here because they do go into some lore. It was this goddess named Asteria, I believe, that created the rock. I heard that there was a mid-credit scene, but I wasn't really sure what they were going to do with that mid-credit scene. That mid-credit scene actually features the character Asteria. That's it. That's how you pronounce it. Asteria. And surprisingly, it's played by Linda Carter, who I didn't think was going to show up at all in this movie. It's nice to see her back as in a Wonder Woman movie. She's not playing Wonder Woman, but it's nice to see her back in this type of movie. So that's interesting. I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with Linda Carter and Asteria in the third one. I don't read comics, so I have no idea who Asteria is, if she's good or if she's a villain. If she's a villain, maybe that's setting up the third one. No idea. I really don't have an idea, but I think it would be really interesting to see where they're going to go with that. There's a lot of time devoted in this movie to the Diana and Steve relationship, and I think a lot of people, at least for the first hour of the movie, are going to be like, where is the giant action sequences? They're all in the second half. The payoff is there, trust me, because you have to explore the relationship between Diana and Steve, especially if Steve is coming back, and you have to explain why he's back. So you have to devote a good amount of screen time to that. And I mean, you're already jamming that into a 2.5-hour movie that you're jamming Cheetah into, and you have this plot with Maxwell Lord, and he's slurping up everybody's wishes. So, I mean, when you really think about this movie, it is a jam-packed movie, but it's a jam-packed thrill ride. It's definitely an entertaining movie. The opening scene is a flashback to when Wonder Woman was young, when she was on Themyscira, and she's taking part in this competition. It kind of doesn't have anything to do with the movie, in my opinion. I was watching that scene, and right off the bat, I didn't mention this. I actually didn't mention this in my spoiler review, but right off the bat for the scene, it kind of felt like it was just leftover deleted scenes from the first Wonder Woman, because they spent a good chunk of time on Themyscira in the first one. So when I was watching that sequence, I was like, how's this going to fit into the movie later on? I feel like it's kind of like a scene that's supposed to show, oh, hey, this is what you're going to do when you grow up or something, or you're going to be a symbol of hope when you grow up. So I guess that's how it ties into the rest of the movie. And then after that, you get this action sequence in a mall, just where the magic rock comes in, where these 4 guys are going to rob like a jewelry store, but the back of the jewelry store is used as a front. It opens up a really unique action sequence, and that's where the Rock is introduced.
The Rock is cooking!
Opening scene and that sequence in the mall are really the only 2 action sequences. I'd say the first hour of the movie, maybe hour and 10. They might even push an hour and 20 on, until they get to the next action sequence. They spend a lot of time trying to develop these characters, trying to advance the plot, trying to set up the dynamic between Barbara and Diana. There's a lot of time devoted to characters in this movie, and I was actually very surprised it didn't really rely on all those action sequences until the second half. The second half I definitely had a lot more fun with because of those action sequences. And the one where they go to Cairo, they're chasing Maxwell Lord. They chase down his convoy on the highway in the middle of the desert. That's my favorite one of the entire movie. But then you have the one in the White House, the one at the end. I think all of them take place within a 35-minute time span. I think the last 35 minutes or so, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, is just all of those action sequences. So you're still getting your big superhero moments, and you cannot tell me you didn't love Wonder Woman donning the gold. I wish she kept that on, and it was kind of weird too, because like she had the wings on the gold suit, and I was like, isn't that weighing her down? Gold suit looked really cool without the wings. I thought it looked really bad with the wings, honestly. It looked silly. It looked silly and goofy. I mean, this movie is kind of goofy, especially since tonally it feels like an 80s movie. But that was like the one thing where I looked at it, I was like, that does not look right at all right now. Thank God Cheetah knocked them off. A lot of these action sequences in the second half are payoff, and I really like how they're woven into the plot, how they feel natural. That convoy chase in Cairo feels really natural, although Steve and Diana got to Cairo pretty damn quick. I'll say that. Steve's definitely an expert pilot if he got there that quick. When it comes to Steve Trevor too, he's not just there to be just there, you know? He's actually doing something. He's actually integral to the plot. So I'm glad that they gave Chris Pine something to do. Dude, it was just really off-putting to me when I saw what the actual plot was going for, where I was like, this whole thing revolves around a rock.
The Rock is cooking!
That grants wishes. This is like definitely the magic lamp from Aladdin, but minus a genie, and you only get one wish. instead of 3, but then something gets taken from you, and in order to get that back, you have to renounce your wish. I grew used to it, but I wasn't huge on it just revolving around this rock.
The Rock is cooking!
But I guess it makes sense in the long run, because it is like an ancient artifact, and it was from a goddess, Asteria. And that just opens avenues to where they're going to go in the third one, I guess, with Linda Carter, who's playing Asteria. Interesting to see where that goes. That's going to conclude my spoiler review of Wonder Woman. As I said, I can't talk about everything, and I'm going based off memory, off one viewing from like an hour ago, and I'm filming this right after my spoiler-free review, so I definitely missed a lot. I know that for sure. But I'm just going based off of what I thought was the most interesting and what I can remember. And usually what's most interesting for me is the stuff that I remember, especially on just one viewing. So that's what I was going based off. So stay tuned for more reviews, guys, coming very soon. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.
The Rock is cooking!